shows.
Our trained staff of 2 will help.
Is this that jerky car show that I listen to?
Oh, you distributed capital. Why on the port condenser?
Quite frankly, there are better things to do with your time.
Trying to dial the phone with transmission fluid all over me.
I finally got a chance to listen to you guys streaming. I'm in a good mood. I'm happy.
Yeah, I want to know what the is wrong with my car.
I haven't even called my own mechanic back, but why don't I ask you?
But you guys are pretty special guys.
Motormouth!
Must be a motorcycle thing, because I'm not familiar with that.
Yes.
Let's just think right now, Murphy's Law, what's going to go wrong? Is the board going to explode? Is the mic going to drop? Is my phone going to drop? I love live radio. I just have it just fun with you guys.
There are answers, sometimes correct ones, and we may have them.
Motormouth Radio, 90.3 FM, WHPC.
Motormouth!
This is Motormouth Radio, your 1-hour automotive talk show. And now, here are your Motormouths, Chris Switzer and Ray Guarino.
Alrighty, created by the foolhardy, performed by the outrageous, and listened to by the distinguished. This is Motormouth Radio, your 1-hour automotive talk show, right here on Long Island. I'm Chris Switzer, and of course, here's a man who longs for those old days when going fast was mandatory, but stopping was an option. And he's going to tell you all about it from behind the shop bench. It's Ray Guarino. How are you, my brother? Last week? Last month. That's true. That is the old days are now.
Yeah.
Song?
Yeah. Anticipation.
And joining him behind the shop bench, the man who makes this program 521% better, the one we affectionately call the man in the clouds, the one we go to for guidance, the Obi-Don Cannoli man himself. Joe D. from Standard Motor Products is here with us. How are you, my brother?
Hi, guys. Good to have you in, Joe.
And that's just a cloud of oil smoke, usually.
Yeah.
And to prove it,
steam.
We're on VaughnLive.tv/MotormouthRadio. There's Joe. We're there for you. I'm in the corner right there. You can try and lean in a little bit, but we're there. You can see us, VaughnLive.tv/MotormouthRadio. You can go right to motormouthradio.com and press the blue button if you're computer illiterate, and all kinds of technological magic will happen for you. So, yes, we have a special show today, don't we?
Well, we do, but maybe in ways you don't know. Joe can actually help us celebrate today. There is a Motormouth birthday anniversary in there.
Where's my noisemaker?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
You always have your noisemaker.
And
I
so do you.
I carry my noisemaker everywhere I go.
It's a year today that you bought your present vehicle that you're driving, by the way. Your Dodge.
1 year.
1 year.
No way.
And you still don't have it sorted out yet.
No, I don't.
So there's our anniversary for today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, at least there's no fog or steam coming out of that.
No, not yet.
Today.
But there was fog and steam happening in the garage this weekend.
Yeah.
I got the Triumph running.
All right.
Oh, I thought you invited, Deep Purple over for a personal concert or something.
Not much smoke on the water now. No, but the Triumph now runs. It lives.
Really?
Yeah.
How much gas did you take out of it before you put new stuff in?
There had to be maybe about 5 gallons I took out.
And you got how much? All right, you took out 5, so what was left in? I'm just curious what the mixture was.
No, I just cleaned the tank out.
That was all. Okay.
Yeah, I took it all out. I figured might as well. It came out. It looked like old Scotch.
Yeah.
It had the color consistency, that caramel consistency, the gasoline, of like old booze.
Wow.
So I figured, not a good idea to leave any of this stuff in.
No.
So I didn't want to burn it.
I'm sure there's a bar around the corner or something that made good use of it.
Oh, I'm sure there is, especially in my neighborhood.
And you went through the carburetors okay? Everything worked out well?
Carburetors came out. There was no jelly like there was the last time.
Good.
And here's the reason why. Because the carburetors have these two bowls or receptacles where the floats will sit in.
That's the bowl, yeah.
And under it is like a cap.
Mm-hmm. That's
that has
the drain.
It has a rubber O-ring on it.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to access that drain, you got to pull the whole bowl down.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then it's almost got like little plastic tangs that hold, so you have to push the tangs in and slide it out. Well, those rubber O-rings were both dried out. So thankfully, I had the rebuilding kit.
So let everything leak out.
Everything did leak out.
Right.
Well,
so there's nothing left
British,
to sit.
And the British Engineer Society, specifies a certain number of leak points have to be in every vehicle.
Right.
Yes.
That's on engineering diagram 1.32.156, I think. They probably make. They may make a retrofit of like a brass or aluminum style threaded cap to screw in there, to screw it instead of the plastic affair.
Well, unfortunately, there's no threads that it can screw into.
It would self-tap.
Oh, it's self-tap.
It would be like for an American car, for Rochester, they had the self-tap fuel fittings.
Right.
That the fuel filter would go in.
Probably wouldn't.
Because guys would strip them out.
Probably wouldn't have been a bad idea.
I would guess that they make that.
Or the whole bowl that has it.
Oh, that'd be way too much money. No, but the cap itself would be
because I wouldn't want to self-tap it.
You know how thin? You know how the depth, rather, that the thread... It's going to be like a thread and a half. It's not even going to be... You're not going to have like 3 threads on there.
I'm just thinking gasoline is really, really... It's very light. It's very thin.
Well, but if it's threaded with an O-ring, there's your seal.
Yeah, okay.
And the threading would hold it. But whatever.
That is true. But put it all together, all I did was just change the gaskets on it. Changed the gaskets. I changed the diaphragm. I had it. I put it all back together the way it was. I hung them on the car, hit the key. Believe it or not, the dopey thing fired right.
Wow, very good.
Gotta love it.
Yeah,
that's great.
Once I got the pump primed, and it just boom. Once gas got to the carburetors, it fired right up.
All right.
I was chuckling like you would not believe.
That is grounds for chuckling.
I was doing the chuckle dance. I was having a ball out there. Nice. It almost started raining. I was dancing so much. So the car lives. I tell you the God's honest truth. I walked in the house. And my wife knew I was walking in the back of the house when she was all the way in the front of the house.
Because the smoke made it there right before you did, right?
I smelled so bad. I smelled like unburned or too much burned fossil fuel.
Yeah.
You know that smell. You
I
both
do.
know that smell all
we
too well.
do.
Yes, as a matter of fact, they don't know it's me coming in the house if I don't smell like
right.
that.
We actually tried bottling that and making a cologne out of it once, but didn't work out.
Nice.
I could have wrung out my shirt and filled a couple of bottles. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what's the next step?
I don't know.
Oh, that's the wrong answer.
I don't know. Well, I mean, the next step was in the
What's the car?
Well, here's what I did. I flushed out the brake fluid on it so far.
Good.
Did do that, but I haven't gone on the danger drive yet. I mean, I just got as far as the driveway, and that was it.
That would be the danger drive right there.
Well, that's the first leg of it.
Well, Joe, it's so funny because that's the way I think of a danger drive. A danger drive to me is you get it around the block a couple of times. Ray was the one that perfected the danger drive to last for months with his car.
Well, it's a series of danger drives because it's a series of repairs in between.
Because it's like, Ray, is it done?
You notice you have to build confidence until, like I said, every time you drive a car like that, you have confidence in the things that don't do anything they shouldn't do.
I have confidence it's probably going to rust out by the time you finish your danger drive.
The thing is, you have high attention to the things, if there are any, that are giving you trouble. That's where all your attention goes, and everything else gets nothing. So every time subsequent driving...
It's like how you do this show.
Pretty much. Well, that's where I learned it. So let's answer the phone.
Let's go to the phones. Let's go to the fun. Hi, you're on with the Motor Mouths.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's up? Let's do it, cutie pie. It's the Bronx. How are you?
I'm doing good. I tried to get online. No video cameras today, huh?
No, we're running.
Because it says here, video servers are out of capacity. Try again in a few moments. So it's not coming up for some reason.
No, we got it here. I'm looking at the return feed.
Yeah, but the return feed is not his feed.
Yeah,
that's it. So it must be something going on my end.
No. I think you're right, Bronco. If it says the message you got was it was what'd you say? It was too much usage.
Too much capacity.
That's
too much capacity.
You can't get it because of that. Yeah.
Yep,
maybe there's a buzzer sitting on his cable wire out there.
Right, exactly.
Chewing on the electrons.
Yes.
There you go. High tech. Go service.
It's like Joe says, it's high dreck.
Right. Are you familiar with the change R12 to 134 with the new synthetics they have out now? A lot of people don't know about this, how to do the conversion. Are you aware of it?
Well, we're aware that there's a conversion out there, yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what it cost me to go from R12 to 134 with Freon? Take a wild guess what it cost me out of pocket to do the complete conversion.
Which car? Let's start with
a 1985 Mustang.
Which is the Zimmer.
Right.
Well, out here, I'm going to say that would be about $300 to $400.
Yeah. Okay. Would you believe $47 complete?
No.
Yeah, we wouldn't believe.
So, in other words, you used your lips instead of a vacuum pump.
Right. You supplied your own vacuum pump.
It came out by Interdynamics and Easy Cool. All the auto parts stores sell the stuff, and believe it or not, Walmart sells it. It's a synthetic refrigerant, and it has your oil, it has a sealer, and it has a 134 in it. The conversion kit is 2 fittings that screw over your low and high pressure sides. That costs about $12.
Okay.
It just screws right over your existing stirk fittings. the hardest part of the job, and because I got to say this because the EPA, is that you should go any R12 that's in the system, have it evacuated by a shop.
Exactly.
Right.
There's other ways of doing it naturally.
Right. Don't let it go out into the atmosphere. That's a no-no.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. And if by some chance you do, just don't breathe it.
Right.
So how did you evacuate that system down?
It was already empty because there was no charge in it whatsoever.
Now,
from sitting, I gets it all leaked out.
Was there a receiver dryer in that system?
Yeah, it's a dryer. You don't have to change the dryer or anything.
See, they always recommend taking a
with
receiver
new stuff,
dryer out.
Right. If you
And
have
the
to
orifice
buy the
tube.
connector hose, it's $35 a can. Now, with this conversion kit, you take 85% of your existing
Right.
R12 charge. So, for
That's
example, if
correct.
it calls for 40 ounces, take 85% of the 40 ounces. It comes down to about 34 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
The new kit comes with a can, and it comes with the hose, pressure gauge, and a trigger. It's all attached to the can. It's a simple screw-on. You screw it onto the low-pressure side, you start your car, throw the AC high, throw the fan high, and you just charge it in there. The gauge will tell you when it has enough, and it blows ice-freaking cold. Now, you can see it on, I went to the website, started doing some research on it, called ask.com, ask.com, right, and just go R12 to 134 conversion, and they give you all the information, and they give you each system of where the low side is, where the high side is, and what to do. It is absolutely painless, and it is so low cost, you don't have to change dryer, you don't have to change seals, don't have to do anything to the existing R12 system.
See, I'm going to be curious how this works out over time, because just like doing a brake fluid switch from 3 or 4 to 5, it's the residual that comes back to bite you later on. So you got to let us know later on how this works out.
How it's going. So far, it's in the car now. I don't want to say anything. I got it in the car now 3 weeks.
Okay.
And it is running absolutely perfect ice cold.
Wow. So, and did you repair the leak? Did I hear you say that correctly? The leak that let out all the old R12?
I don't know if there was a leak. I don't know what the story was on this thing, because this car was a Mazim car, so it's been sitting, God knows, since the car was new. It's only got 28,000 miles on it for an 85. So, when you go to turn a compressor on, there is nothing where the compressor don't kick on because of the pressure switch in that thing. Nothing at all. When we threw a gauge on it, it had nothing in it. So when we turned it on, the compressor wasn't kicking. It started to charge. All of a sudden, the compressor would kick on intermittently. Then the compressor started running full steam. And I said, well, if there's a leak in the system, for $50, I'll find that there'll be no charge left in the system in a couple of days.
Right. That's
right.
Pretty much what happened.
Big deal.
Well, the car only has 28,000 miles because it only went from a house to a golf course and back.
But no, not only that.
That was it.
That was it.
The thing could be like when we had Bobby Elch from AC Pro on. That kit may have a slight sealant in it. Just like AC Pro does.
Kit, the one I use is Easy Chill because that's what O'Reilly's Auto Parts carry. Into Dynamics, you get 3 cans, a sealant, an oil, and a refrigerant. The Easy Cool, it all comes in 1 can.
Right. The AC Pro does.
I didn't have to buy the kit.
The AC Pro does the same thing. Yes, it's one.
So far, it's working good. I think it's something that if you are doing a conversion, it's 2 Zerk fittings. It just screws on. The fitting kit was $12. Right, and then the sealant, like I said, was about $20 each.
Fantastic.
That's retail.
Very
and then
cool.
I was lucky I didn't have to buy the attachment hose because they had one over at the shop, so I just screwed it on the can.
Well, please let us know what happens if it all leaks out, if it hasn't already.
Right.
And,
if there's a leak in the system, that's something else. Then I'd have to bring it to a shop to find out where the leak is, or put the dye in it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I'd play around with. But it's just something that, with the new technology out there, with the synthetics, doing a little research on these modern cars to retrofit these things, it might be something to look into on some of the vehicles, some of the people out there that are going to do it, and they don't want to spend the money on 12 because it's so damn expensive.
Sounds good. Thank you, my brother. Always a pleasure. We got to let you go. We got our guest on the other line, believe it or not.
Okay.
It's on the Ray line.
It's actually the same line, really. He's trying to call that line.
It's the same phone line.
Yes.
Anyway, go have a good one. Try to call me during the week. I'll get caught up and see what's going on.
I'd like that. Okay, my brother. We'll talk soon.
Take care, guys. Have a great one.
Bye-bye.
So long, bro.
Bye-bye.
All righty. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Mr. Tony Candela from C&E Auto Electric Supply. He is the author of Automotive Wiring and Electrical Systems, Volume 2. He's calling it Projects. And he is on the other side of this break. Joe D with us. Ray Guarino, of course. I'm Chris Switzer, and the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour, drivers that can't open their hood. If you're one of those people that just think, give it to the dealer, let them handle it, you're part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour. Keep it where you got it. Got a lot more coming your way. Tony Candela coming up.
The Motormouths will be right back with your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440.
WHPC, Garden City, New York, the voice of Nassau Community College.
Join WHPC's Daily News Wrap-Up, weekdays at 4:30 p.m., bringing you a complete report of the day's news home and abroad, as well as sports, weather, and many other informative features.
We're Long Island's FM alternative.
Got a car question? Give the Motormouths a call at 516-572-7440.
All righty. Put a hold on that finger because we have on the line Mr. Tony Candela from C&E Auto Electric Supply. He's here with us on Motormouth Radio. Tony, welcome to the program.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, Tony. Good to talk to you again. Hi, Tony.
Yeah, good to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, we got our good friend and electrical Commandant Joe D in the studio with us because he loves to get in on stuff like this because he knows you're the man.
Nah, the air conditioner's better, but he is the man.
Yeah, it is. The air conditioner's good there. So, Tony, we have your new book here. Well, the new reedition of the book, Automotive Wiring and Electrical Systems, Volume 2 Projects. Chris, you may want to hold that up to the camera. And we have some to give away to deserving listeners, thanks to Tony. So if people want a copy of this book, they get in touch with us, and we can get it out to them and hopefully impart some knowledge on the masses on how to do things the right way.
And they need it. Massive knowledge.
Yes.
I see too much.
Very much so.
So, Tony, last we talked to you, we covered the book one, the first book that you wrote, and you just called it, Automotive Wiring Electrical Systems. How does the projects book differ from that for people who don't know?
The projects book basically assumes you know all of the information that's available to you in book one, and you've got a good, strong foundation for automotive electrical.
Right.
And then the projects book basically takes that foundation and puts it to work to do numerous projects, so not only to instill the skills, but also to build confidence.
Right. How much of your work is project-based like that, as opposed to repair or whatnot?
Oh, I would say probably 95% of what we do is project-based.
Oh, nice. Now, if one person.
No, I was just going to ask, Tony, what was the call for the book? When you put out the first one, what made you say to yourself, we have to inspect this and go further? What made you do that?
That was actually my editor's idea from CarTech. He had contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in writing a follow-up book to it, and we put it together, and it actually worked out quite well.
Yeah, plus I know when you write a book like the first one, there's so many things that are going on. You're trying to stick to a point and get something across, and you know that there's great examples with projects and other things that you've done that you can use to represent it, but you just don't have the space or the time to put it together. So sometimes the second or even a third book is like a no-brainer, because I got all this stuff in the back. But I wonder how you have time to actually sit and write this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't much anymore. We did do the revision recently, but, the idea of putting together a book like that from scratch now would be tough. They do take a lot of commitment.
Plus, do you do the photography in there yourself, or do you have somebody else helping you out with that?
I do everything. In the first book, I had some assistance with the photography, but in the second book and in my third book, I did all the photography. I draw all the diagrams and everything myself.
Right. I know I've done some projects like that myself where with the thought of writing an article about the procedure I'm doing, so I always have the camera nearby. But it's like, okay, how can I hold this with my left hand and get a shot with my right? And I need like a 4-foot longer arm, and it's like a selfie stick. Yeah, a selfie stick for an SLR isn't working too good.
Right, and taking those shots under the dash, I'm sure, is probably a complete joy.
It's hard, yeah. I certainly, for one, appreciated the work that went into the books because I saw what you were doing and said, this is a tough project. I give this guy a lot of credit, as well as the stellar information. So what would you like to get across to people when they may endeavor? Because, we go to car nights, as we spoke about last. Right now we're in our cruise season. I know you guys are in your hibernation season.
Correct.
And
cars are here in the garage collecting dust right now.
Right, and now we're actually out enjoying them. So you look at people's cars all the time, and you just see this rat's nest of wiring and junk. Yeah. I was dealing with a guy just the other day, and we wanted to fix a simple problem that I was going to help him with, but I stopped short of saying, you know what, I need about 6 hours to clean up the ancillary stuff before I even want to touch that. And
and that doesn't even include the pressure washer.
Exactly. So what do you think, Tony? How do you handle situations like that from a professional and customer based perspective?
It's all in planning, guys. If you go into a project like an electrical project of any scale, and your objective is just to get it working for right now, and I'll come back later and sort it out. You do 2 or 3 of those, and then you've got a vehicle that should you decide to make it right. It's going to take you a great deal of time. Should you choose to hand it off to a professional, they're going to charge you more because they've got to undo everything that you've done to be able to start over. So I always tell my readers it's all about planning. Think it through before you run the first wire, before you mount the first component. Think things through and have a plan in mind. And don't go into it with, let's just get it going right now and we'll come back and fix it, because that rarely ever happens. See the project through completely.
Tony, just out of curiosity, when you say you plan something, how do you plan it? Is there a hierarchy that goes on where some wiring gets attention first and then others follow suit?
Well, I think, yeah, of course, and I think what we see most often is, guys have got cars that have got fairly stock electrical systems, and then they go and they add a myriad of aftermarket components to such a vehicle. So every one of those installations adds, current requirement onto the existing electrical harness in the vehicle. So if you add 3 or 4 or 5 of those things over the period of time, then what you've got is just a bunch of stuff, that's installed in no particular order with no eye towards the end result. Whereas if you start out on the front side, you think, well, okay, I want some gauges and I want to add electric fans and I'm going to put an electric fuel pump in the car. And you think about it as a whole, then what you can do is you can start and you can actually go through the process and you can complete it in such a way that when it's finished, it was well thought out. Even if you don't add some of those components until down the road, if you think that you're going to add them, plan for them in advance, and then so that when you do add them, it's easy to do so.
Tony, I think that's where your electrical training and background, it proves itself, because like myself, I know what you do is you'll make I'm not even going to use the word schematic because people don't know what that means a lot of times.
Out of my head, I was just thinking the same
thing.
Yeah,
schematic's just a fancy word for diagram.
So I'm going to say, even I've done it on a napkin, on just a piece of scrap paper, just rough out a diagram of what you want to do, and then you can refine that as you go. But that becomes your blueprint, like when you build a house. That becomes the blueprint for where the wood goes and where the door openings and windows are going to go. The same kind of thing.
Exactly.
But people don't understand, what all those squiggly lines and circles and cool little sharp pointy things mean. So it becomes. That's why I tell people, if you don't know what you're doing with this stuff, find somebody who does. And it is hard to find a guy who, like yourself, specializes in that. But how much do you think your schooling played into the man you are today with this stuff? Was it just a little kickstart, or was it a big part of your
I think it was a big part. I was fortunate enough to have an electronics course offered at the vocational school in our high school, and I took it both my junior and senior year in high school, and I had a teacher, Mr. Waters, who was just phenomenal. I mean, he really cared, that we were in his class, and went to great effort to, instill, processes and due diligence into us, and I think that was really, really great stuff. I have an uncle that's very involved in electronics even to this day, and he was an influence. But, even the computer programming classes. I remember taking Fortran, which nowadays nobody would even recall what Fortran is.
Yeah.
But with Fortran, you've got flowcharts, and you've got a process, and you've got a thought process to get from point A to point B or E or F. And all those types of things, I've just adopted into my way of thinking. So I think school is, I think it's a very, very instrumental part.
Yeah, you hit it.
Discipline.
I think exactly. Now, I've never been a programmer, but I know I've been around it. Fortran, COBOL, all that cool stuff. I took a few classes, but it wasn't my thing. And with electrical or electronics, I look at it the same way. And you said it before. What's the end result? I want gauges, I want fans, I want this, I want that. And then you work backwards to get to the beginning. You don't start at a wire and say, okay, where do I put this? You start at the end, and then you work your way back to formulate the plan that'll get you from A to B, or A to Z. And throw away the Scotch locks.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, Scotch locks and key tabs, get rid of them.
I love this. You mention this stuff in your book, and you don't really go ballistic on it like I would. But I laugh anyway because I read it, and I kind of try to read between the lines. I say, boy, I hope he's really like irate about this because it should be. These are things that they're and 3M is a great company. Don't get me wrong. I use a lot of their products, and I think the stuff is fantastic. But
just for those who are not in the know, can you just describe a Scotch lock, Tony?
Yeah, it's just a mechanical connection at which you lay it next to the wire that you want to tap into, and then with it open, you put the wire that you'd like to tap into the wire inside of it, and you squeeze it shut with a pair of pliers, and there's a little kind of a knife blade style of a connector inside that just pierces and slides along the insulation on both of the wires to make a connection. And, I mean, they have their place.
Where?
But 5 amps and less would be,
right.
The max. Where you see those things the most often is underneath trailers.
Yeah.
I was just troubleshooting a trailer we rented yesterday that's full of them.
Yeah.
They love that.
But yet I will tell you this, because I did work in the R&D section of an electrical manufacturer years ago, and the back of the 110 outlets had holes in them for what was called a push wire connector. And you take the solid wire and just push it in, and it goes through 2 blades of a little brass terminal and locks. And part of my job in the metallurgy end was to actually encapsulate that stuff, section it, and look at those connections. And I'll be damned, they worked. I mean, now you're pulling, they were like, you could use that on a stove connector. Some of these things were pulling some current. And I still don't know how the hell it did it, but they did. So, But I've seen more Scotch lock failures also. And maybe it's because of the working environment. I don't know.
Yeah, they get water in them. They oxidize. You've got a copper with a tin-plated metal.
Yes.
And they have galvanic corrosion issues. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a time connection. You can install it today, and there's a certain amount of time at which it's going to fail.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, when you spec out a job for somebody, like you've done in this book, in the projects book, there's a lot of, there's something for everyone in there, things that everybody wants or has in their car, whether it's done right or wrong. And I just I'm thinking of like the amount of linear feet of wire that gets used. And as a businessman, how do you calculate what you're going to charge for that? Because wire isn't cheap these days, especially the wire that you use. You use good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just if we're doing a project on a vehicle, we just map it off as we pull it off the spool. It's tough to track it that way, but it's impossible to track it if you don't do it like that.
Yeah, they don't want to give.
You can't look at the job afterwards and assume how much you used.
I actually pick a little clicker on the spool, so as you pull it, it's going click, 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 like by the inch. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we have a wire meter.
Yeah, there you go. That's cool.
Amazing, a wire meter.
Yeah. Well, like if you go to Home Depot, when you pull, if you're going to pull long runs of wire.
Exactly the kind of wire meter we have.
Same thing, yeah. It's the same thing. So that's wow. So UPS and FedEx must hate you because that stuff is expensive. Not expensive. It's heavy when it comes on the spools. That's not like buying packing peanuts.
Well, that stuff's it comes in. It's like an anvil.
Yeah.
So what kind of? You say that you get jobs that are coming in like motorhomes that have those Scotch connections. What other failure type of connections do you avoid or you try and remove from any of your customers' vehicles?
I just look for anything that's got high resistance. High resistance terminations are probably the number one problem when you start troubleshooting circuits for, not working correctly or not delivering the kind of performance you're expecting. High resistance terminations are right there, and they can be. You can have the right connector or terminal and use the wrong crimp tool. Some of those inexpensive crimp tools where they just kind of squeeze, crimp connectors and such.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of those types of installations, and those are typically also the wrong size terminal you use. Where you'll see a 14-gauge wire, which you'd have, if it's an insulated terminal, it would be a color-coded blue. But you'll see 14-gauge wires with color-coded yellow insulated terminals, and those are for 12 to 10 gauge.
Oh, you don't just squeeze harder?
Guys just think, hey, I can squeeze it down harder and it'll be just fine. It's not just fine. Over time, the termination will break down and it's high resistance, and we see a lot of that stuff. If you've got a circuit where you've got a 10-foot length of wire and you've got 4 connections between, say, a relay and the component you're driving with it, that's 4 connections too many. You should have a continuous length of wire, if at all possible. Obviously, a lot of things you'd like to be able to plug and unplug for serviceability. That's another area that we see a lot of challenges. When the enthusiast will try to terminate a plug on, they'll use the wrong plug for the job. Maybe the plug's not rated for the current that the accessory requires, and so then you've got a high resistance termination, as a result. And the plug itself can be a source of problem. Fortunately nowadays, those little infrared handheld thermometers, you can track down problems like this fairly quickly with those.
Good idea.
You can look and say, well, I've got double the temperature at the termination that I've got on the wire itself. I've got a problem. I've got to correct it.
We're going to take a quick break, Tony. We're going to ask you to hang on, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this, because I had a thought about factory connectors versus the ones that I make at home, too. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
All right.
You got it.
We have Tony Candela from CE Auto Electric Supply, and he is the author of Automotive Wiring and Electrical Systems Volume 2 Projects. The advanced version. Once you've read the first book, you're all ready for the second book. And we'll be talking more about this. Got Joe D here with us in the studio, Ray Guarino, I'm Chris Switzer. Of course, you can hear this program on Performance Motorsports Network. You can also hear it on iHeartRadio. We got podcasts coming your way, whole bunch of stuff, and Tony Candela. So you keep it where you got it, right here to Motormouth Radio. A lot more coming up.
Whether your car is fast or slow, we're your #1 radio show. Motormouth Radio, baby. Ow.
Tune in to Thunder Road for
Join me, Kim Tracy, for the music of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band on Thunder Road, Thursdays at 11 p.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. on 90.3 WHPC, and streaming at ncc.edu/WHPC.
Your car not running right? Let the Motor Mounts help you out at 516-572-7440.
Check out that remix. Alrighty, this is Motormouth Radio. We have on the line Tony Candela from CE Auto Electric Supply, and we're talking more about automotive wiring and its goods and its bads, and we're going to see if Tony can actually fix a CD player right over there.
That would be nice.
Tony, welcome back to the program.
Tony, before the break, I just handed Chris a pair of my Excel crimping pliers. It's a compound, compound function, like you would just sit. Joe's holding it up for the camera.
Right.
And I bought them because they do spark plug wires, which is what I really want to do. But it also came with 2 sets of dies for doing standard crimps. And as I just did a rework on my car, I took a lot of time to look at the factory, the OEM crimps, and these are back from even 1965. And damn, they had some really, really sweet wire crimp.
Back then, huh?
It is. And that's what I try to emulate. And, Tony, a little while ago I'd sent you an email and asked about another level of crimping tool for doing larger gauge. And I ended up buying that Harbor Freight hydraulic one.
Right.
Which is here. Because it is, for the cost, really. And what I found out, they just tell you to put the jaws in it, put the die in it, set it up, and just crimp away. Yeah, Chris, you can hold that up to the thing. And I made some test crimps with 10-gauge wire, and found that it over crimped. It flattened the crimp out, unbelievably, and it was wrong. So obviously you get what you pay for. Yeah, Chris, you may want to hold this part up.
Yeah.
I was getting there.
All right, we have a little. We don't have a model in the studio.
Tony, believe it or not, we have a camera in the radio studio, so you can see us on vaughnlive.tv/motormouthradio. And I'm holding up tools here to the camera.
So I found that if you did what they said, you over-crimped and flattened out the connector, like you smashed the hell out of it. But if you looked at it while you crimped, you could get a better connector. I'll show this to Joe. So, again, it's all a matter of...
things don't joke.
Yeah, just playing
sure.
around.
Like you said, you had one of the Excel tools that had the interchangeable dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good quality tool, and for up to 10 gauge wiring, that tool can be quite handy, and they do make very good quality crimps.
Right.
I like the dies, the interchangeability of the dies, because you can do standard insulated crimp terminals. You can do an open barrel type of terminal. We have dies available for flag terminals, both insulated and non-insulated, weather pack connectors, Deutsch connectors. There's a lot of different dies available for those tools, and that's a pretty handy thing to have in your toolbox, especially given the fact that everything you print with it, you're going to be able to print correctly.
Right. Can you speak a little bit about, again, this gets to the microcosm of wiring, but the actual quality that you could buy of say a female spade connector? Because we know there's variances in that, but a lot of people don't realize that there's a variance in a female spade. They think a female spade is a female spade.
Mm-hmm.
Can you enlighten people on what to look for?
We even have that challenge. We buy those things by the thousands, from our suppliers, and what we find is that our suppliers are constantly changing, from the people that manufacture them from them, I suppose. So I'm pretty picky about that stuff, and I'm the kind of guy where if I don't get what I want, I will ask my supplier to take it back. And, we're real picky when it comes to terminals, ring terminals, spades, butt connectors, etc. We only want the best stuff. I think, when you look on the shelf at your typical auto parts store, at the organizer that's got a bunch of different things in it, what you should be looking for is how many of the things that are in that can I actually use. For example, a 22 to 18 gauge spade terminal for a number 10 screw, not very useful.
Right.
And you'll see a lot of those types of things in those kits. So not only are some of those kits have lower quality parts, but they also have parts that you just can't use. So 10, 15 years from now, you'll still have the same number of number 10, 22 to 18 gauge spades you had when you bought the kit.
You don't want to use those if you're sober. Let's put it that way.
Or the real little tiny ones. I have a bunch of those too. I'm like,
right.
Can use?
Number 4 ring terminals or something like that.
Sure. You're going to put together a Bell telephone or something, or a rotary phone.
A good example of that is the light. I have a hanging light outside my front door, and it went kaplooey. It went bad. It had short to ground. So took it. We tried to replace it. Couldn't find a replacement. So I said, okay, I will take this apart and I will fix it. So I did, and the wire shorted out inside the drop tube. So rewire it, no problem. People used to, I told my wife, that's what the guy on the corner used to do. You'd bring in your toaster or your light or your lamp, and he would rewire it and send you home.
Right.
So, but I found at the bottom of the tube there was a ring terminal that had to be about 5/8 diameter inside diameter. And it attached like a number 22 wire. So it was a very, very specific brass connector.
Sure.
And I looked at the biggest ring terminal I had, and I couldn't make the hole big enough and then be happy with it. So I had to reuse that. So basically it was a matter of opening up the factory crimp with a little pair of precision pliers, precision dikes, and breaking out the old wire, cleaning it, resoldering in my new wire and insulating. It was ground, so I insulated it anyway.
Listening to be made fun of when you're actually sitting there doing that. It's like, put a new one, wrap a wire, wrap it up. What are you doing?
Right. It's so easy to slack off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But again, that was part of the project. And I said, if you're going to do it right. And I said, man, somewhere somebody has like a bin of these things that they're not using, and I need one, and I can't get it. But
right, exactly. And the same thing can be said for the uninsulated terminals. So like they're open at the top, where the terminal's got a mechanical strain that grabs a hold of the insulation and electrical that grabs a hold of the actual wire itself.
Yeah.
So when there are different grades of those available as well, and we buy the tin-plated heavy-duty ones which are exactly like the OEM uses. Now, you said earlier you've looked at some of these terminations in older vehicles, and you've noticed that they've held up well over time. Well, there's a reason for that.
Yes.
The termination is done with a very specific tool, and the terminal itself is a very high-quality part. So like the replacements you can find at your local auto parts stores, if they're not tin-plated, if they're just soft brass, just recognize that, over time, that's going to oxidize and corrode, and, it'll break down from the inside out.
Exactly. Well, what I've done is I've actually saved a bunch of those. I have a bin now with a lot of those connectors, and I'll reuse them. Whether I'm going to take the factory wire crimp apart and reattach my wire, or some of them have a length of wire. I may do a splice on the wire just to keep that nice connector end, but as need be. But I think, like you said, supply and demand. The suppliers. Back then we had all American suppliers. God knows where this stuff is coming from now. But the thing I was getting to with the female spade that I want to address is, you covered it in your book. If you look at a female spade connector head on, right into the end of it, some of them, the ends just kind of curl around and don't touch. Some of them curl and come all the way down to the bottom substrate, if you will. Those are the good ones. And that's what you called out in your book that I thought was great, because you don't have to look at one head on to know what's going on.
Good to know.
And, it definitely makes a better connector with the male.
Right, and when I first wrote the first book, I also, throughout the text, I also referred to them as spades, because that's what I had always referred to them as professionally. And I had a good friend of mine proofread the copy before I gave it to my publisher, and he corrected me and told me, and I didn't know this, he told me, he said, those are actually not spades, those are push-on terminals.
Yeah.
And so a push-on terminal, like what you're talking about, the ones that are angled on the sides, they're designed to plug into a male version.
Yes.
So a male version and a female version, you can plug and unplug them fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones you're talking about, which are curved over to get a good bite on the male terminal or spade, those are the ones we recommend using, if at all possible.
Right.
Just because you get, like you said, a much better termination.
Right, exactly. I see Chris is itchy. He wants to take another quick break.
Yeah, let's take a quick break, Tony. We're going to talk a little bit more about connections and wiring and your book. So when we come back, we'll be talking more with Tony Candela from CE Auto Electric Supply, author of Automotive Wiring and Electrical Systems, Volume 2 Projects. So you got to pick up Volume 1, and then Volume 2, and then next time it's Volume 3. But we're working on Volume 2 right now. Joe D in the studio with us, Ray Guarino. I'm Chris Switzer. Of course, the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour, drivers that can't open their own hood. That's right. That's true. I know. There's some people that just
have been cold hoods.
They just want to just palm it off to someone else. That's right. Just keep listening to this program. We'll straighten that problem right out. But right now, revel in the bask in the glow that you're part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour. Keep it where you got it. Got more of Tony Candela coming your way. So hold on.
We'll be back with answers to your car questions. Give us a call at 516-572-7440. Oh, I should have said Motormouth thing.
WHPC 90.3, the voice of Nassau Community College, is looking for individuals, businesses, charities, or organizations in our local global community that would like to donate to support our radio station. Whether you listen locally or online, here's how it works. Go to our webpage at ncc.edu/WHPC and click Donate Now. Or, if you prefer, you can send a check to the NCC Foundation, Nassau Community College, 364 Rice Circle, Garden City, New York, 11530. In the memo of your check, write WHPC Donate Now. This message was brought to you by the radio voice of Nassau Community College, WHPC, streaming online at ncc.edu/WHPC.
Let the Motormouth help you with all of your car questions at 516-572-7440.
Alrighty, welcome back to Motormouth Radio. We have on the line Tony Candela from CE Auto Electric Supply, author of Automotive Wiring and Electrical Systems, Volume 2 Projects. That's right. So
projects.
Yes, projects.
Tony, please tell us what's coming down the pike in the future from you, if you have anything else planned in media-wise, and how people may get in touch with you if they want to, if they're out your way and want to have some work done.
Sure. As far as media goes, like I told my publisher, I've probably written the last book until I retire. It's so time-consuming. Each book takes about a year to put together. Yeah. And our business has grown to the point where I just can't take on another book project. But we do have, I do have another book in print that has to do with converting from carburation to electronic fuel injection.
That's correct.
That's a good one.
Called EFI conversions.
Yep.
And what we found is that a lot of guys that are, electrically interested, enthusiasts that, take this part of their project pretty seriously, a lot of those people have also considered converting their car from carburation to fuel injection. So that book is a good follow-up to the second book, the Volume 2 book.
That's correct.
It's got a lot of other electrical hints and tips in it as well that don't appear in either of the first two.
Yes, I do have a copy of that book at home that I went through, and we'll get back and we'll talk about that again in the future. I apologize for forgetting about that one. I'm thinking of, I'm in connector world here. I wasn't even thinking of that. But we will follow up, and I want to remind people we do have copies of Tony's new book that we can give out as prizes if you call or email us. Go to the website, email us at motormouthradio@ncc.edu, and we'll get you a copy of the book. Tony, thank you again for that, because people will do this. It may take a week or two for them to all get on board, but the requests will trickle in. Last time I ran short. This time we have enough to take care of people. And I want to thank the good folks at CarTech. My connection, Andrea over there, is always very nice to deal with. That got me in touch with you, so we thank them for playing along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's good to hear. As far as us, my company is CE Auto Electric Supply, as you've mentioned numerous times, and we're located in Gilbert, Arizona, and we're primarily a mail order business. We do offer, some local services. I have been on site numerous times. I've taken a handful of large-scale electrical projects in. We build a lot of sub-assemblies. So we build a lot of custom power panels for cars, because a lot of people will want to complete a lot of the facets of their project themselves, and they'll look to us to complete some of the larger pieces of the project, and we ship those. We ship power centers all the time. For example, I just built a complete power center for a gentleman that's got a 1976 Trans Am, and it fits into the front inner fender right behind the battery. He sent me a template he made out of poster board, and I made it to fit exactly the way he wanted it to. Relays, fuse panel, power distribution, fusing for the alternator, custom battery cables, etc. And we shipped all those things to him. So you don't have to be here in Gilbert, Arizona to be able to take advantage of our services. I think that's one of the things that we do that makes us pretty different.
And what is that web address so people will know how to find you, Tony?
It's ceautoelectricsupply.com.
Excellent. Yes,
so
I've been
CE like Charlie Edward.
Right, and the site is fantastic. Our friend Pirate Paul, who was in last week, I know the two of us are going to get together. We're going to put an order in for some components that we want to have laying around, like some of those high-quality connectors and stuff. Yeah, so you'll be hearing from us again.
Not the crap you find in the local wherever store.
No. Tony, we thank you again, and we will be in touch about that EFI book. We'll get you back to talk about that in the future, and try and stay out of the sun, man.
Yeah, we're actually gonna hit the lake today and do some wave runners for the first time in a long time. So I'm gonna cover myself with SPF 100.
Yeah, there you go. Mayonnaise. Excellent. Tony, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome.
Take care, Tony.
Take care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
516-572-7440 is the phone number. That was Tony Candela. He works at CE Auto Electric Supply and author of a couple of electrical books.
This is good stuff. I actually read this stuff outside of the bathroom.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I actually hang out in the garage sometimes.
Come on. That's high praise, Joe.
Front stoop.
Yeah,
I know. I do too.
I've referred to this a number of times. His way of looking at things is very, when you're trying to do a project, like you said, is very well done.
Well, please email us if you're interested in receiving a copy of the book. Ray has got a couple of editions that he has a couple of copies that he has ready for you. So just email him at email him at motormouthradio@ncc.edu, and he'll be glad to fire them out until they're gone.
And again, a big thanks to Tony for giving the go-ahead into CarTech for supplying them. They said they usually don't send out, onesies, twosies maybe, but he wanted enough people to get the book.
Well, I'm very glad.
So it was nice of him.
I think something like that, the intelligence and the knowledge that's in that book, is going to make his life easy, if you think about it, in the long run, to people that deal with him. If usually there's car people that are going to take advantage of it most of the time.
Then again, you can look at it the other way. If you don't educate people and they go and burn their cars down like they typically do, he'll get it in for a full rewire, so it'll be a bigger job. So, I mean, we can look at it that way.
Also, where like the quality stuff is hanging out too.
Yeah.
That's important. They tell you how to discern the good stuff versus some of the grade Z stuff.
That's why I wanted to get into that connector thing, because it was a fine point that you wouldn't know unless you looked at the business end of that connector. And
yes,
most
you're absolutely
people,
right, yeah.
They don't do that. One of our friends, I said this a couple weeks ago, one of our good buddies, I was down at Belmore a few weeks ago and looked under the hood of his project car. I'm not going to name names and all cars because I don't want to do that, but I looked at it. Wow, it looked nice, and I came around to the driver's side and went, and saw that he had all of a ton of power wires tapped off the alternator stud, which, if you read Tony's books, he'll tell you why you shouldn't do that. There's really good reason why you shouldn't. But it's a convenient place.
It sure is.
And common mistake.
If you ever notice, the factory doesn't do that. They have a number of places where they have fusible links and power takeoffs.
Right.
Yeah, they don't want all their eggs in one basket. That's one thing.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you've seen very many of those examples, Joe.
Yes.
Didn't you have a GTO that you were working on that was an issue or something like that?
68.
Right? The 68. As a matter of fact, that's back. That's back, but I happened to walk past it yesterday. Yesterday was a really busy day for me, but I only had to spend a limited amount of time at the shop. And believe it or not, I saw a harness kit laying on the back seat, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's a joy.
Yeah.
Was that a dash harness?
I didn't even look because at that point I had I had a '67 Caddy that thing just needed a couple of those guys from down south to lay their hands on it. And heal.
Tell me about that. If you got a second.
Came out of mothballs, huh?
Yeah. It's been laying there. The guy had a list as long as your arm, not the least of which was like battery goes dead. And all kinds of stuff didn't work. Runs like a bag. And it's just at that point you just roll up your sleeves and you just start going down the list.
That's it.
And I found a lot. Let's put it this way: if I took pictures of that and sent them to Tony, he'd probably faint.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, and what I want to tell Tony was I would like to see either a full book, 'cause I know he could do it, or an addendum to it of just the stupid crap I've seen.
Yeah.
Like that wire mound, that mound of ugly stuff that was balled up with tape and God, what was. But when you look at a list like that, and I've seen those lists, I've made those lists. There's a ton of stuff. Do you look at it and just zero in on one thing and say, I'm doing that first?
Yeah, I always. I'm famous of sitting there.
Coffee break.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Right.
That's what I look for.
Start with a cigarette.
Iced coffee.
Yeah. No, I sit down, a cup of coffee and whatever I'm planning to inhale, and then I get out my colored pencils. I'm sure and I make my little road.
Oh, we've seen the colored pencil.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I did it on that Caddy, which the battery drain ended up just being a bad door jamb switch.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay. Yeah,
nice.
Because it didn't draw for me, but then when I slammed the door one time, it was like, it's still on. Then I did the old butt bash, and then...
I got a couple of those door switches floating around somewhere. I got to look.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
The early ones were one wire, the later ones were two wire, because they triggered the key buzzer.
Yeah, this was the passenger door button, so
it was just jammed in there.
And the funny... To show you what kind, I went to pull the door shut, and the pull strap came out my hand.
I know exactly.
Okay, that's item number 59 on the list.
Me? Yeah. Okay, it was me, but it was. I'm not that strong a guy.
Yeah.
Hey, Rocky, why don't you pull a rabbit out of my hat?
Yeah.
It's not my own strength.
Yes, I know those cars very well.
Like I said, I'm always curious where someone starts on a list, because I know myself, certain things, it's either like Tony was saying, the core of the problem. Let's start the core and work out. Or sometimes you say, you know what, let me just get this thing out of the way.
Right.
Or let me move this because I know I got to move it to get to the other thing. So
yeah, it depends too. Sometimes on practicality. In other words, this thing was going dead overnight, according to my boss. So he wanted me to do the battery drain first. Got the car started, and then I saw item number 3, which runs like a bag of turds.
Right.
So, I was like, I was like, okay, sometimes you got to go after what the customer wants, too, to a point.
Right.
Sometimes if they're asking something completely stupid, then you have to just find a way to convince them or tell them, well, I had to do this first. Like, if the car didn't start, I don't care about if the battery goes dead because you're going to be pushing it anyway.
Right.
Well, we're not really concerned that the radio stations drift right now because,
right.
the tires are
Had
flat.
to change the presets on the radio.
Yeah, people get crazy with certain things.
You pull the knob out and you pushed it back in. That's how you set the presets.
Oh, yeah. I tell a very funny story. I had to be about 10 or 11 years old, and a guy pulled into a shop that my dad was working at between strikes at the phone company. My dad used to work at the shop, and the guy pulls in with a 56 Buick Century. And he came in to get the presets changed on the radio. The car was in mint condition. I remember it as a kid. And my dad looks at me and goes, "Go help the guy out." And I'm like, "What do you want?" He says, "Go change his presets." And now this guy who had this meticulous vehicle is watching this 11-year-old scramble into the car, and I'm sitting in the middle of in front of the radio in between the two seats. And I'm like, "Okay, what do you want?" And the guy's looking at me like, "You know what you're doing?" I'm like, yeah, don't worry. What do you need?
Yeah.
So we dialed it in, and I did exactly what you just said, right? Pull the button out, push the button, stab the button back in again.
Surprised
and the guy
he
was
didn't
like,
know that.
"What? Yeah, it's true. It's
like
amazing.
watching kids with iPhones and stuff.
Yes,
today.
yes.
It's the same thing, except, you have a little bit more of a mechanical device.
Yes.
Right.
That's why we have children.
Yeah, so they used to run VCRs. Now, like you say, they run
yes.
computers and iPods. That's for sure. Speaking of running out of time, we've just done that. Joe, thank you so much for being here with us.
As always, thank you for having me.
You're always making the show 521% better.
I have to tell you, next Thursday we have the distinct honor of having the dynamic duo in the studio with us.
Yes.
It's those Ford Fanatics Deluxe.
Oh, yeah.
Elliot Wiener and Dennis Benfante from Tony and the Long Island Keyboard Association owners, respectively.
Yes, the cute one and the
big one.
That's for sure. So they're coming in.
Right.
So
they're always a trip.
I forgot. They booked that date in, I think, January. It's like, I'm like, okay, let me find where's July in the book. Flop. Like, I put the post-it note in. I'm like, God, that's going to be forever. I'm like, oh, God, next week. So
we'll be looking forward to that. That's for sure. For Joe D, Obi Don Canoli, of course, for Ray Guarino, I'm Chris Switzer. This is Motormouth Radio. Enjoy the day, and always remember, we're going to talk on Thursday, and don't follow us home. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.